Hello, is there anybody there?
Sharice, we can hear you, but we're not getting started just yet. We're still waiting to establish a physical quorum in chambers. There is a potential that it does take us a few minutes to get quorum past 7, but we will, of course, give like a verbal indication when the meeting is starting and we'll call roll as normal.
Okay.
First off, I want to say good evening, and you all look amazing. But we are waiting on a council member before we get started. So, in case you're wondering, we're not just ignoring you. I promise. Congratulations to the new promotion. So we'll be with you all shortly here. Thank you.
Okie doke.
Just to clarify for the folks on the phone, can you hear me? Am I coming through the mic? I don't know what's
Yeah.
happening. There we
Took you
go.
off mute.
Just for the
I can
folks.
hear you.
Thank you, everyone. Just for the folks on the phone, just an FYI, we are going to go ahead and move forward with the promotions of our amazing fire department, seeing as though we don't technically have to be in quorum or in business, to make this happen. It's still official, so don't worry, you'll be fine. But since the family and everyone's here, we're going to go ahead and move forward with this. All right? Thanks.
Okay.
Sounds good.
I'm trying to keep. Thank you.
It's fine. No
I
worries.
can't hear anything.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
There you go. Sorry, my beard was covering it up, Sharice. I'm sorry.
Just had to hold it right.
Mm-hmm.
All right. First, good evening, Mayor, members of the council. Thank you again for having us. This is another great opportunity to recognize our staff. Tonight, we're honored to celebrate the promotion of Lieutenant Matt Ritchie. Matt began his career with the fire department on October 30th of 2006. More than 19 years ago, he served with the community with professionalism, dedication, and quiet leadership. Over the course of his career, Matt has continually expanded his skill set and taken on new responsibilities. As part of the ceremony, similar to what we said just about a month ago, we recognize that the badge pinning itself carries a deep meaning. The badge Matt will receive tonight is more than just a symbol of his accomplishments. It's a testament to his commitment to leading an engine company, serving the department, and serving our citizens. It also represents a transition in his career to lead and mentor others in the department. So tonight, Matt is going to come up. He's going to be joined by the people who have shared the sacrifice, during his career and have supported him throughout his journey. So I'd like to invite him up, his wife Kim, and his daughters Lexi and Bree.
Center stage. Center stage. All right. Raise your right hand. And when it's time for you to state your name, please state your name. So I
Matthew Ritchie,
do solemnly affirm
do solemnly affirm
that I will faithfully execute
that I will faithfully execute
the duties of position
the duties of position
of lieutenant for the city of Urbana and county of Champaign, Illinois,
of lieutenant for the city of Urbana in the county of Champaign, Illinois,
and to the best of my ability,
and to the best of my ability,
preserve, protect, and defend
preserve, protect, and defend
the Constitution and laws of the United States and state of Illinois,
and the Constitution and laws of the United States and the state of Illinois,
and the charter and ordinances of the city of Urbana,
and the charter and ordinances of the city of Urbana,
acting rightfully for the citizens of Urbana.
acting rightfully for the citizens of Urbana.
So hereby affirm.
So hereby affirm.
Congratulations, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. I have you come and sign with me. And then your family can pin you. Awesome. Hey, congrats, man.
Thank you, sir.
Yes,
Appreciate
indeed. Of course.
Have it for pictures. Fire knows they need to come to give me a signed copy.
So along with celebrating a promotion night, we also want to recognize several members of the Urbana Fire Department for their actions during 2 high-risk rescues that occurred earlier this year. The first incident we're going to talk about is on June 19th, 2025, and that occurred on Stoughton Street in Westville. Jesus, I'm losing my mind, I'm sorry. It occurred at Stoughton Street here in Urbana. On that day, crews responded to what was initially reported as a routine fire alarm activation. Upon arrival, firefighters quickly identified a far more dangerous situation. When they arrived, they observed an individual sitting on the 3rd floor window ledge, partially outside the building. They also observed water flowing from an activated sprinkler inside the building. The individual on the ledge was clearly in distress and in immediate risk of falling. Recognizing the danger, crews quickly initiated a ladder rescue. Firefighters positioned ladders around overhead power lines and ascended the ladder to gain access to the individual. It was at that point that crews determined this was a medical emergency and not emergency in the building. During the rescue, the individual was uncooperative, combative, refused commands, and created additional hazards for both themselves and rescuers. As the situation escalated, additional ladders were deployed and firefighters worked together at height to maintain control of the scene. At one point, the individual leaned off the ladder, causing it to shift significantly. Firefighters on the ground stabilized the ladder while personnel above prevented the individual from falling. Despite all of the challenges, crews maintained their composure and safely guided the individual down the ladder. Tonight, we recognize these firefighters for their exceptional performance and dedication to serving this community. Their actions reflect the high standards and values of the Urbana Fire Department and demonstrate the level of service our residents can expect when they call for help. Will the following members please come forward? Lieutenant Jeff Orr, he cannot be with us tonight. Engineer Calvin Kearns. Firefighter TJ Carell. Firefighter Tyler Sipe. And firefighter AJ Fox, who cannot be here tonight. The next incident we're going to talk about occurred on July 24th, just before 3 p.m. The Urbana Fire Department was dispatched to a medical emergency at 1001 College Court on the University of Illinois campus, also known as Florida Avenue Residence Hall. Following our normal dispatch practices, Engine 254 and Aero Ambulance were dispatched for 2 workers that were injured when bricks fell on them. Upon arrival, crews quickly discovered that this was not just a normal medical call. They discovered that the injured workers were actually 9.5 stories in the air on a platform. Engine 254 crew requested more fire units to the scene to help with this complex incident. As additional fire department resources arrived, crews developed a rescue plan, implemented complex high-angle rescue operations from both the roof and the ground. Because of the pre-planning efforts made by the fire department members, they were already familiar with the building and what anchor points were needed to conduct this rescue. Crews established rooftop rigging, accessed the victims on the suspended platform, provided patient care at height, coordinated the use of the skylift to safely remove both workers. Despite multiple challenges, the rescue was completed efficiently and without injury to any of the responders. While all members played an important role in the successful outcome of this incident, the 6 members being recognized demonstrated exceptional professionalism, technical skill, and teamwork during a high-risk, low-frequency event. Their actions directly resulted in the safe rescue and transport of both injured patients. Would the following members please come forward? Firefighter Drake Royal. Firefighter Kelly Riono. Firefighter Drake Todd. Firefighter Jerry Camerdell. And two that could not be with us tonight, Engineer Chase Jones and Lieutenant Brian Hoff. I just want to finish up by saying thank you to the mayor and the council. This is an incredible opportunity to be able to highlight the fire department and just talk about some of the accomplishments that they make. Even though this is something that we do on a daily basis, there are times where we go above and beyond and we see them do things that just aren't out of the normal for us. So thank you for letting us highlight these incidents, highlight their professionalism, their training, and their teamwork and the commitment to the city. Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Thank you all and congratulations. Thank you. All right. Welcome, Councilmember Quisenberry. The time is now 7:22, and we can call to order the City of Urbana public hearing. Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Councilmember Wu,
Here.
Councilmember Evans,
Here.
Councilmember Hersey,
Here.
Councilmember Colasetti,
Here.
Councilmember Bishop,
Here.
Councilmember Wilkin,
Here.
Councilmember Quisenberry,
Here.
Mayor Williams.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have quorum. We can proceed. All right, a rescheduled public hearing to approve a proposed property tax increase for the City of Urbana for 2025 will be held on December 15, 2025 at 7 p.m., which is 7:23, at the City of Urbana City Council Chambers, 400 South Vine Street, Urbana, Illinois, 61801. Any person desiring to appear at the public hearing and present testimony to the taxing district may contact Darcy E. Sandifer, City Clerk, 400 South Vine Street, Urbana, Illinois, 61801 at 217-384-2362. The corporate and special purpose property taxes extended or abated for 2024 were $11,206,054. The proposed corporate and special service property taxes to be levied for 2025 are $12,053,950. This represents a 7.57% increase over the previous year. The property taxes extended for debt service and public building commission leases for 2024 were $0. The estimated property taxes to be levied for debt service and public building commissions leases for 2025 are $0. This represents a 0% increase over the previous year. The total property taxes extended or abated for 2024 were $11,206,054. The estimated total property taxes to be levied for 2025 are $12,053,950. This represents a 7.57% increase over the previous year. I will now open the floor if anyone would like to speak from the public. All right, seeing none, we will move on. With no further business, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you. All right, we will now proceed to the special Urbana City Council meeting for Monday, December 15, 2025. The time is now 7:25. Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Councilmember Wu,
Yes.
Councilmember Evans,
Sorry, here.
Councilmember
Here.
Evans. Sorry. I heard you, Chris.
Here.
Yep. Councilmember Hersey,
Here.
Councilmember Colasetti,
Here.
Councilmember Bishop,
Here.
Councilmember Wilkin,
Here.
Councilmember Quisenberry,
Here.
Mayor Williams.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Quorum is present. All right, the next item is the approval of the minutes from previous meeting, which we did not have any, so we will move on. Are there any additions or changes to the agenda? No. Seeing none, we will move on. We already had the fire, look at that, the fire promotion. So we'll now move to public input. The floor is now open to any members of the public who'd like to speak. You would have 5 minutes. Please state your name and city for the record.
Good evening, Council and Mayor. My name is Leslie Krause. I'm a resident of Champaign. Last year, I spoke in front of the City Council about my being brutally attacked in the emergency department of Presence Covenant Medical Center during a psych hold. Just to recap, in 2014, I was placed into a chokehold by security guards, dragged through the hallways, and thrown onto a hospital bed because I refused to sign my discharge papers, despite the fact the doctor had cleared me for release. This month marks the 10-year anniversary of yet another incident of abuse at that same hospital. In December 2015, a full year after the chokehold incident, I was again taken to the ER for a psych hold. Crisis workers arrived and evaluated me, asked why I was there. I explained I had posted about wanting to end my life on Facebook, but I changed my mind because a close and dear friend had reached out in private messages to comfort me. However, the crisis workers were having it. They said I was not being cooperative. They accused me of lying, even though I was telling them the full truth. Then they threatened to have me committed, despite the fact I expressed no intentions of self-harm. After waiting for well over an hour, I was becoming increasingly anxious about the threat of hospitalization. After all, this was the ER where I'd been strangled only a year prior, so I started repeating, I have the right to leave. I have the right to leave. I have the right to leave. To calm myself down while sitting nervously on the hospital bed. Finally, 2 nurses and a doctor arrived at the doorway and told me they were going to have to inject me to calm me down. So I explained that Illinois law doesn't permit forced medication of mentally ill patients unless they are at an imminent risk of themselves or others. The nurse then threatened, quote unquote, you can either take this willingly or these security guards will restrain you. It's your choice. Of course, I was confused and scared, so I agreed, all the while crying because it felt like being raped as they penetrated me in the rear with a needle. After 5 minutes, I could feel myself becoming physically weaker, unable to move my body. I noticed it was hard to breathe. I started to have flashbacks to the chokehold incident, except this time instead of a neck lock, it was a chemical noose. I was helpless to do anything, just laying there, staring up at the ceiling, counting each aching breath paralyzed completely from head to toe beneath the glow of those blinding fluorescent lights. That was an experience of unimaginable terror. I ended up spending an entire week in the psych ward up on the 5th floor. I missed out on work as well as Christmas with family. Once the resident doctor returned from his holiday break, which I'm sure was very enjoyable, he asked why I was there. And if I was still contemplating self-harm, I told him that I already felt fine and I didn't even belong there. He actually agreed and said I was being discharged. So after an entire week of being locked up, it took me 10 minutes to determine I didn't even need treatment. So I suffered through yet another ordeal of criminal negligence, only this time I didn't report it. I knew better than to press charges. The Urbana Police Department wouldn't protect me from assault and battery. After all, the last officer didn't come to my defense in 2014. Instead, he yelled at me to get out of the interview room because he said I was wasting his time. To add insult to injury, OSF announced plans earlier this year to expand its behavioral health unit while maintaining its emergency department. So the 2 resources where this medical facility has repeatedly shown a complete lack of accountability and responsibility, not to mention patient welfare, is where they intend to restructure and expand the primary focus of their Urbana campus. According to the News Gazette, in addition to $13 million that the location has received from OSF Health System for renovations to add more behavioral health beds, it has also received about $500,000 to turn some of those emergency department medical rooms into behavioral health rooms. To date, I still have not received any reconciliation for the physical violence I suffered at the President's Covenant Medical Center. However, there's one common denominator. These incidents both occurred in the jurisdiction of Urbana and the state of Illinois. Indeed, I get the distinct impression that the city of Urbana is not about protecting and defending human rights, because if it was, there would be criminal accountability lodged against this hospital as committed flagrant human rights violations, or at the very least, there would be improved oversight and safeguards to mitigate the risk of further abuses, as I had actually already proposed by email to the City Council and Mayor last year. Mental health is supposed to be about improving the quality of life, not destroying it, especially over the Christmas holidays. But now I live with lifelong PTSD that requires ongoing weekly counseling because of so many horrific experiences at this Urbana medical facility. Thank you very much. Happy holidays.
All right, are there any other members of the public who'd like to speak? All right, I think we have a couple letters.
One from Ward 4 residents starts, Dear Mayor Williams and council members Wu, Evans, Hersey, Colasetti, Bishop, Bulkin, Quisberry. I'm not sure if I will be able to appear to tonight's meeting in person, so would be grateful if you could read the below public comment on my behalf if time allows. I think there may have been some email difficulties with the joint council email over the past few weeks, so please imagine that I have sent or spoken these comments ×3 or at least ×2, including the early December snow day. My name is Lila Leopold, and I am a resident of Urbana, Ward 4, and would like to direct my comment today towards the proposed land acquisition of the Pickerel farmland and the surveillance oversight ordinance. As someone who cares deeply about community health and environmental justice, when I heard that the city of Urbana is considering purchasing a portion of farmland, my ears perked up. My mind immediately turned to the potential to incentivize farming food that could directly feed members of our community, or taking steps to restore farmland or encourage tree perimeters or the like. The last thing that crossed my mind would be the construction of a motel and gas station, unless it were to be made available for emergency housing or land development for low-income housing. The site in question, however, is convenient for neither. Instead, what comes to mind are increased availability for ICE and federal agents to find expedient housing for their operations. I can't rationalize the use of nearly $1 million of local taxpayer money to incentivize yet another business development from out of town who could very well afford to develop land on their own, and which offers a service which does not directly benefit our community. I would encourage council to explore alternatives for increasing city funds without letting our tax money seep to outside enterprises who don't need it. If this is the only plan for what to potentially do with this land, it does not seem right to move forward with this. Now to shift gears, I applaud the council on their work on the proposed surveillance oversight ordinance and deeply thank you for your discussion and conversation of our collective civil rights and liberties in this discussion. I would be happy if this ordinance would apply to all city departments, not just to the police department. Though if it were a question of pursuing an ordinance that addresses only the police department or no ordinance at all, I'd be for starting there. This is such an exciting opportunity to address a gap in policy to the benefit of all those involved. Collaboration with the Civilian Police Review Board, CPRB, and Human Rights Commission, HRC, seem like a natural choice for sharing the burden of decision-making about policy implementation as cases arise. Thank you so much for your consideration, Lila Leopold.
We got one more.
All right, yes. This is from Adam Nichols and Ward 7, dear City Council members. I'm writing about the proposed land acquisition by the freeway. I really appreciate the problem you're trying to solve, the problem of city expenditures outpacing revenue, and that you're trying to do so without raising tax rates. The problem has gotten worse over the past few years, and it's good to see it getting some attention. One thing to keep in mind with a truck stop is that most large chains, Love's, TNA, have calculated the optimal distance between their locations. Unless there is a major company who has a substantial gap in this section of freeway, or there's a dearth of truck stops in general. There's not much motivation for any of these companies to set up shop here. As for independent truck stops, I don't think there are many left at this point. The amount of capital required to build a truck stop is substantial, which makes it difficult to enter the market. Even if there's an independent company who wants to open a truck stop and they have the required money, they'd face the same challenges as the big companies, but without the brand name recognition. Unless there is strong evidence that the market conditions are favorable to a hotel or truck stop, this seems like a speculative investment. There are two things that make this seem like a risky bet. If there were a good place for a hotel or a truck stop and there were a person or company who wanted to capitalize on that, they would have done it by now. The macroeconomic analysts are expecting a downturn in the economy in the foreseeable future, which means less travel and fewer hotel stays. The farmland purchase only achieves its end of revenue generation if a business of the specific type is started and thrives at that location. Without the business, this is all just wishful thinking. Therefore, I urge you to put that money in the Central TIF Fund and focus on attracting businesses to downtown Urbana. Downtown is a core part of the Imagine Urbana plan, and money invested there will bring in more revenue via the hotel tax, sales tax, and liquor taxes. This plan has wide buy-in from your constituents. It helps people who live, work, and shop in Urbana. And overall, it's a much safer investment. Thank you, Adam Nichols, Urbana resident, Ward 7.
All right, thank you. Seeing no more, I don't think we have any more emails. All right, we'll now move to council input and communications. Are there any members of the council? Mr. Quisenberry.
I just want to apologize for my tardiness this evening. It was a circumstance beyond my control, and I'm sorry for it.
Thank you, sir. We're excited to see you. So, anyone else? All right. Well, now hear from reports, standing committees, which there aren't any, so we will move on. We'll now move to the committee of the whole. Councilmember Wu, the floor is yours.
Actually,
I
it's my
think this one
report.
is,
Yeah.
yep.
I was just joking. Councilmember Quisenberry, the floor is yours.
And may I, before you read them, point
Yes.
of procedure to remove A from consent to regular? I think that's the one we had a question about, wording changes potentially. Does that ring a bell for Public Works? But anyway, to move to regular, please.
All right, so we will have that change.
Okay, then the consent agenda will consist of item B, resolution number 2025-12-092R, a resolution approving and authorizing the execution of a license agreement with Urbana School District number 116, on-street parking and a bus turnout at 1602 South Anderson Street. And item C, resolution number 2025-12-093R, a resolution for improvement under the Illinois Highway Code, state motor fuel tax for Vine Street and Washington Street.
All right, motion made by Quisenberry. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Wilkins. Is there any discussion?
Not for consent.
Not for consent? All right, we'll move on. Sorry. Clerk.
Councilmember Wu,
Yes.
Councilmember Evans, Councilmember Evans, Councilmember Hersey,
Yes.
Councilmember Colasetti,
Yes.
Councilmember Bishop,
Yes.
Councilmember Wilkin,
Yes.
Councilmember Quisenberry.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. That passes. Mr. Quisenberry.
So now we'll start out with item 1A as the first thing under regular agenda. That's resolution number 2025-12-091R, a resolution approving and authorizing the execution of an amendment to a grant agreement for the fiscal year 23 Safe Streets and Roads for All grant between the Champaign County Regional Planning Commission and the City of Urbana.
I'll second.
All right, motion made by Quisenberry, seconded by Mary Alice. Any discussion? All right, Grace.
Thank you. Yeah, just wanted to pull that off to loop around from our discussion last week. And Vince, I don't believe you were here with us last week, were you? Yeah, you were. Okay, sorry. Can't keep everyone straight. So I think we had a question about adding wording about having close to the same contract, but it will not be this actual contract, right? With section 6.9 changing or being removed.
Correct. So what we've, in discussion with Matt, the city attorney,
What's your mic on?
What we've provided is a change of language of Section 1 that states the City Council is hereby authorized the execution of an amendment to the FY23 SS48 grant agreement with RPC, or with the RPC in substantially the same form as attached here to. Therefore, if there's any changes that would deem review, this language guarantees that we would bring this back before this group prior to any authorization.
Thank you. Excellent. Yeah, I think I just missed those 4 words in there. Awesome.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, anyone else? Anyone on the phone? All right. Clerk.
Councilmember,
I don't have anything to say.
Councilmember Wu?
Yes.
Councilmember Evans? Councilmember Evans? Councilmember Hersey?
Yes.
Councilmember Colacetti?
Yes.
Councilmember Bishop?
Yes.
Councilmember Wilkin?
Yes.
Councilmember Quisenberry?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. It passes.
All right, next up, 2A, ordinance number 2025-11-034, an ordinance revising the annual budget ordinance, budget amendment number 3B, FEMA Assistance to Firefighters Grant.
Second.
Our motion made by Quisenberry, seconded by Mary Alice. Discussion? All right. Anyone on the phone? All right. Clerk?
Councilmember Wu?
Yes.
Councilmember Evans? Councilmember Evans? Councilmember Hersey?
Yes.
Councilmember Colacetti?
No.
Councilmember Bishop?
Yes.
Councilmember Wilkin?
No.
Councilmember Quisenberry?
Yes.
Mayor Williams?
Yes.
Thank you.
That passes and moves on. Good.
Budget amendments do require a higher threshold, so it does require 6, and that received 5 affirmative votes.
So that fails. All right, thank you.
All right, number 2B, ordinance number 2025-12-035, an ordinance authorizing the purchase of real estate, 2302 Vance Road, Urbana, Illinois.
I'll second.
All right, motion made by Quisenberry, seconded by Mary Alice. Any discussion? Questions? Grace?
Thank you very much for your email. I was just going to pull it up, or if you have a summary you want to share, I was going to just reiterate for the public a few of those things in there. But if you would rather speak for yourself there, that's even better.
Yes, I do have an update considering the council input and public input received over the weekend and today. So I'll just go ahead and do that, and then I'm happy to answer any additional questions as they arise. But I did want to provide this quick update based on a conversation that I had with Representative Carol Emmons this morning and other members of the staff and the public. And really just to reiterate the timing, because I feel like that's an important piece of this conversation. So I hope to explain the timeline as clearly as possible for the public. The purchase of Pickerel Properties is inextricably linked with the expiration of TIF 4, and I want to make sure that's clear. So TIF 4 was created on December 17th, 2001. It established the Cunningham Avenue Corridor Redevelopment Plan. And I have the plan over there at the table, but to directly quote from that, the overall purpose of this redevelopment plan is to encourage new and redeveloped commercial, light industrial, and recreational uses in the redevelopment project area, which is TIF 4. TIFs are governed by state legislature and have 23-year lifespans. Therefore, the TIF is coming to an end of its natural lifespan on December 31st of this year, which is in 16 days. The previous administration and other public entities had an opportunity to extend the TIF a year ago. However, after conversations with all other taxing bodies, the previous administration decided not to extend. We had conversations with those taxing bodies and tried to evaluate in the 11th hour, and also made the decision that it was not possible to extend given the timing. Therefore, the TIF is expiring, and expiring with it is our ability to utilize TIF funds within the Cunningham Avenue geography. So to honor the intent of the Cunningham Avenue Corridor Redevelopment Plan, as it was instated in 2001, the city has proposed utilizing TIF funds for the purchase of property that would further the mission to encourage new and redeveloped commercial, light industrial, and recreational uses along Cunningham Avenue. If we do not utilize the funds by the deadline, which is in 16 days, they will be transferred to Central TIF. Transferring to Central TIF in itself is not an issue. However, there are no notable lots of size in Central TIF that offer nearly 30 acres of land. Instead, there is a patchwork of small lots, such as the existing Race Street RFP site, the Civic Center site, which will have a long and complicated demolition process should we choose to move forward with the MTD transfer station there, and a patchwork of small parking lots which could be repositioned but would require reworking the parking infrastructure downtown. There are no opportunities of size anywhere else in Urbana because this property is already sewered and served by infrastructure and is served by 2 regional connectors. It really is unique in that sense. Finally, in an attempt to offer more clarity to the public, the site is zoned B3, general business. Therefore, in emails and conversations with council members and staff and just in conversation about this, we have shared illustrative calculations that demonstrate the return on investment for the city taxpayers using examples that have included a truck stop and hotel motel because those uses could be built as of right and are consistent with the current zoning. However, the site could be rezoned or subdivided into residential or mixed-use complex. It could be a future retail use that would complement the Rantoul Sports Complex. It could be a future retail use that would take advantage of the blossoming film industry, which is also taking root in Rantoul, or use. Really, I guess what I'm trying to illustrate is that the sky is the limit on 30 acres of land, which is already served by infrastructure. So the city is making this recommendation with the long-term well-being of Urbana residents in mind. And yes, we are under a deadline. It is not a deadline of our design. It is the reality of working with TIFs. It's been a very tight deadline to pull together all the materials required to set up a purchase of property. It's also included a great deal of collaboration with the property owners who are scattered across the U.S. They're a family. They're not real estate professionals. They inherited this property and have been sort of dealing with it for 30 years. And so it's given a very short period of time, we've been able to have a lot of important human-to-human conversations about this opportunity and taking advantage of these funds given the very tight timeline. And with all of that said, I think in summary, and really just highlighting the email that was shared, we're making this recommendation today, or the city staff are making this recommendation today with the long-term well-being of Urbana residents in mind. And, in order for us to sort of to provide the level of service our community values, we must take proactive steps to strengthen economic development. And I believe that this proposal does just that. Thank you.
Thank you, Olivia. Any other comments or questions? Grace.
Thank you. I have, I think, one of each, question and comment. Could you remind us, I'm sorry if I've asked or it's not known yet, the funds that we expect to be remaining in TIF 4 if this property acquisition goes that would be left to move to Central TIF?
So the only funds remaining in TIF 4 would be the $915,000 to purchase and the $10,000 to cover the lease agreement with the farmer who would maintain the property. And then all other funds, which I think was a little over $7 million, were transferred to Central TIF.
Yeah, that was my question. I thought in the memo it said something that was the starting balance for Central TIF was $7 million. Sorry, but that the point being that we still do have millions from TIF 4 that are transported to Central TIF that I believe we've already done the mechanisms for all that. Is that right? Okay, head
That's
nods.
right.
Yeah, okay.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Just wanted to clarify that point. And then comment being that I'm definitely down for exploring options. I appreciate the discussions that have happened and some of the public input, and that there will be the opportunity for an RFP, and I think it would be really great to explore creative options and see what the community might be interested in as far as services or opportunities there, and what local kinds of initiatives might be interested in that property and what could be used. And again, that I think that, I look forward to a lot more analysis of kind of summarizing those reports, some estimates, some traffic studies, all the things that go with what developing this property would look like. So I'm open for those conversations, definitely not set on gas station or hotel. I'm not yet convinced that that's the best use in this location, but I don't feel like I have as much thorough information to go off of. So I'm looking forward to more information and exploring what we can do with it. And then again, using those funds in central TIF that might be more appropriate location for incentives for affordable housing or other kinds of services. So I'm in support of this land acquisition for now and cautiously moving forward and looking forward to further conversations about what we actually do to develop it. So I appreciate the effort here, and I'll go out and be in support of seeing what happens next.
Thank you, Chris.
My
Anyone
hand
else?
is up, Chair.
I see your hand,
My hand
Chris.
is
Go
up.
for it. I see your hand. Go for it.
Thank you. Is this discussion or questions?
Both.
Okay. Thank you. There is no way a mom and pop licensee making $30,000 a year can afford the new construction costs it would take to build an 80-room hotel motel or a truck stop with showers, a gift shop, a Subway sandwich shop, and a convenience store attached to gas tanks underground and a sleeping parking lot for overnight truckers. Those are multi-million-dollar construction projects, and whether done by a national corporation or whatever kind of business I want to call it, my clever language semantic games aside, the bottom line is it's a welfare handout for somebody wealthy enough to do major construction and who could also afford to buy that farmland themselves. Urbana taxpayers should not be forced to take on what should be the wealthy developer's responsibility. I would not want to bamboozle the poor folks on the MTD bus with the idea that what tax revenue might be generated by any business built on that farmland is somehow going to afford their housing or utilities. I can't fool the poor, for they know they won't see a dime of that tax revenue. Same as it is that to this day, since it was first asked on October 30th, 2023, for over 2 years, not one dime of the budgeted money has been spent for relocation funds for domestic violence victims to escape from their abusers, despite all the public hoo-ha concern I claim to have about helping domestic violence victims. Instead, I'm considering cutting a check for $915,000 in the hope that a rich out-of-town corporation can gorge on more of the residents' tax money to develop at a location nobody is even thinking about. Nothing but farming has ever happened on that property for 30 years because nobody is interested in that property, and never has there been an urgency to be out there. Constituents have never said the first thing we need to do is build a gas station or another hotel north of the highway. The minimum wage jobs generated by working at the imaginary gas station or hotel doesn't qualify anyone to rent a 2-bedroom apartment in Urbana. I had said previously I was prioritizing the interests of local Urbana people. I told everybody I was prioritizing the abandoned dart factory with living wage jobs, that I was prioritizing the South Philo Business District, that I was prioritizing downtown Urbana, that I was prioritizing affordable housing, that I was prioritizing an alternative response for public safety, and that I was prioritizing African American enterprise for economic development. Instead, I'm gambling close to $1 million of the public's money on a half-baked idea that has been around for several years with no forward movement. In my opinion, there is not a bank on this planet that would float a $915,000 loan to this vague fantasy business plan, but when it comes to the taxpayers' money, it's anything goes. If I want to use that $915,000 of tax money for economic development for that specific tract of land that is supposed to be a priority now, which I doubt it is, why not come up with a real plan first with a real commitment from a developer before buying it? There's other money besides what's in TIF 4 that could be used to buy that land, and therefore there is plenty of time to make a more considered decision. A rush vote yes will have people reading tomorrow's newspaper wondering, if I want more economic development, then why don't I work with the locals here in town for meaningful benefits for the people here? That $915,000 of tax dollars now becomes another opportunity lost, and the taxpayers will have been ripped off. Thanks for letting me speak.
Thank you, Chris. Is there, Jaya?
Yeah, I appreciate seeing this move forward. I'm going to share a different perspective. Maybe this comes from the MBA training, but I will also say, like I shared when this item came forward before, I think it's really important that we don't discount the incredible amount of work and expertise that has gone into this recommendation. I think it's really rough to ask Olivia to keep coming up here and explaining to us and providing more and more and more information about how well-researched this project has been, how quickly city staff had to move forward so that we could keep the money that was meant for that part of Urbana in that part of Urbana. Moving it to Central TIF is meaningful, but that was not the intent of that TIF. The intent of that TIF was to make sure that we had funds that could support that part of the city, and we have seen an incredible boom in terms of development in that area coming from the TIF. We've had that information shared with us multiple times before. I will also say, as someone who's familiar with what the impact of unrestricted tax dollars on nonprofits are, you have to have somewhere for that money to come from. This is not money that can just get moved over to nonprofits that we're talking about or local businesses. This is an opportunity for us to utilize those funds to leverage opportunities for the future. And in order for us as a city to be able to have increased revenue to come in, we have to create opportunities for those funds to come in. This is not just saying we're going to give this to XYZ with no conditions. This is a process. But for us to even have the opportunity of investing in that part of the city, we have to take this opportunity or say, you know, forget that part of our community. It's going to downtown, right? We have millions of dollars that we can invest and should invest in downtown Urbana. We're having conversations about how do we increase opportunities and revenue on Philo Road. But in order to have the money to do the things that this city wants to do, we have to have economic development. There's nothing at this time suggesting that that economic development will come from outside corporations or won't benefit the local residents. There's a long road ahead, but for us to even have the opportunity to keep the funds in the part of the city that they were intended to benefit, this is an opportunity that we would have lost. We would lose if we didn't move as quickly as we did. So while I think there's space for debate, for questions, for folks to think about how are we prioritizing things, I do think it's really important to recognize this took an incredible amount of work from staff with an incredible level of expertise. I think if anything, this city, we get a lot of pushback, I think sometimes warranted, for studying the heck out of everything, right? The studies have been done. The way we waste taxpayer money is not using them, right? We've already had studies on best use for those properties. It may be that things have changed and we need to revise that, But to say that this is not something that's been well thought out, to suggest that this is an irresponsible use of taxpayer money, I just cannot agree with. I think it's really important that we acknowledge, you know, just as we were celebrating the hard work of our firefighters earlier tonight, that we acknowledge and appreciate the hard work of other staff members in this city as well. I look forward to seeing what we can use that property for, to see how we can continue to benefit our residents. But I think it is important that we don't have false equivalencies of this idea that this money could just go to something else that we care about, because it's not that simple. And in order to have the money to do the things that we want to do and that we care about, we have to continue to look at how do we bring in more revenue, or that's just going to continue to land on the residents of this city. So I just want to say again that I really appreciate the hard work that has gone into making sure that we keep these funds in TIF 4 as we look at closing out this TIF.
Thank you, Jay. Any other,
My hand is up.
I see you. Sharice, go for it.
I want to kind of piggyback on what Jay just said, mainly because I guess I keep trying to find in the papers where anything about a truck stop is. As far as I know, this is a way to try to keep something of the TIF, what the TIF is for, trying to keep that option open and option open for development, period. I don't know of anything that has been finalized or anything like that. That's come. I understand that it's an idea, maybe, but there's nothing that has come through, at least that I've seen, regarding what this farmland would be, because folks make it sound like it's a done deal, and I don't know what that could be, because I'm not seeing what you're seeing. Maybe I'm overreading or misreading or underreading something I'm getting. I don't know, but I think the idea regarding TIF 4, there's an excellent area that area of North Urbana is for the development of that area. And what I believe Olivia's, at least what I've taken from it, is what they're trying to prevent is all the monies that go from TIF 4 going into the central TIF, which would benefit nobody except those that live north of University Avenue. So, correct me if I'm wrong, but that TIF money would be, if in fact we're just purchasing a parcel of land to try to keep something like that in place, so that if there would be something to be able to develop there, I don't have a problem with that. And Olivia, if you could, if, like I said, correct me if I'm mistaken, I'd appreciate understanding why we keep hearing that there's going to be a truck stop, or is that just dog whistling?
Thank you, Council Member. The truck stop and hotel were used as of right examples for tax revenue generation for your future use. And I appreciate your comment about preserving the intent of the TIF and making sure that funds are, that were generated for the use in the TIF are staying in the TIF. That is correct.
Okay. I was hoping that I wasn't, it's like, am I missing something? I think as a representative body, we have to be careful about how we present that. We present certain information. Some information is just opinion and is not fact. And I don't, if that's an example, fine, that's an example. But please don't present it as if it's something that is a done deal, because that's a fearful thing to do, and it does not help anyone.
Thank you,
That's all I
Sharice.
gotta
My
say.
hand is up. My
Yes,
hand
Chris.
is up. In fact, it was in the memo over the weekend. The examples for tax revenues was based on truck stops and hotels and motels. So it was a fact. It is, you're right, it is all speculative at this point, but
Then it's speculative.
right, but they are using tax revenue estimates based on truck stops and hotels and motels.
All right. Thank you,
Okay.
Chris. All right. Thank you, Sharice. Thank you, Chris. All right.
Mhm.
If there is no further discussion, clerk, will you please call the roll?
Councilmember Wu,
Yes.
Councilmember Evans,
No.
Councilmember Hersey,
Yes.
Councilmember Colasetti,
Yes.
Councilmember Bishop,
Yes.
Councilmember Wilkin,
Yes.
Councilmember Quisenberry,
Yes.
Mayor Williams.
Yes. All right. That passes. Thank you.
I have a point of order. I want to ask for the earlier votes where Councilman Evans did not vote, yes or no. Was he abstaining or was he just not present on the phone?
I was not present. I'm sorry, James.
Thank you for a clarification. Sorry, we're moving on to the next item on the agenda, which is ordinance number 2025-12-036, an ordinance dissolving the special tax allocation fund and terminating the designation of the City of Urbana Tax Increment Redevelopment Project Area known as TIF 4.
I'll second.
All right. Motion made by Quisenberry, seconded by Mary Alice. Any discussion? Seeing none, clerk?
Councilmember Wu,
Yes.
Councilmember Evans,
Yes.
Councilmember Hersey,
Yes.
Councilmember Colasetti,
Yes.
Councilmember Bishop,
Yes.
Councilmember Wilkin,
Yes.
Councilmember Quisenberry.
Yes, and that is all from the Committee of the Whole.
All right, that passes. Thank you all. We will now move, I'm so sorry. We will now hear reports of special committee, which there aren't any, so we will move on now to reports of officers. None, all right. We will now move to ordinance number 2025-12-037, an ordinance levying taxes for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2025 and ending June 30th, 2026. Is there any discussion? I don't know if you need, come on up if you got something, but, yep, Mary Alice.
Yeah, I actually was hoping, Elizabeth, you could describe to the public why a 7% increase in property tax doesn't necessarily mean that they're getting increased by 7%.
Sure, that's really because at the time we levy taxes, we don't know what the final assessments for the city are going to be. And so we tend to levy higher. And then there is actually included in this group of 3 ordinances, there's an ordinance that abates the levy to make sure that our tax rate does not increase. So we will be capped at the current tax rate.
So in other words, the tax rate that the city is going to be levying does not change from the previous year. However, they could have increased taxes that they pay based on the assessment of their property.
Yes, correct.
James.
Yeah, and to clarify a little bit more, as a home rule city, Urbana isn't required to do this. This is just a practice that the city has followed for the last 8, 10, 12 years?
Correct. As a home rule city, we do not, tax caps do not apply here, but we have done this by policy, maintained a stable tax rate, and I think 8, 9 years now.
And so the only growth we have from this portion of our revenue is based on the increased value of homes in the, over time.
Correct, increased property values.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. feel like I've probably asked this lots of times, but I don't know if we can go through the abatement process like we're explaining it in 8th grade reading level for most average people, I suppose. Because I understand the part about requesting the county clerk to abate the levy, right? Meaning that if they've collected a bunch of property tax money and it comes out to an amount that is more than 1.344% for the city, they reduce that amount. Is that the right on the first abatement with the county clerk?
So,
Nice.
kind of, except abatement doesn't happen after the taxes are collected. It happens before the levy is extended. So they do all the math prior to the levy extension, prior to homeowners getting their tax bills. So that it doesn't even get collected if it exceeds that cap that we've voluntarily placed with that abatement ordinance.
Okay, and that's based on the updated assessed value they're basing that on? Or no?
Correct. When they finalize the assessments, there's a calculation that they go through to determine what the levy extension will look like, so the amount that is actually levied. And in that process, it almost certainly that will result in a rate that's higher than our desired tax rate. And then they will go back and I'll coordinate with them as needed to make sure that those calculations get revised so that the tax rate comes down to where it needs to be.
And so we would see that as a reduction in the total of the 12 million sum that we're estimating.
Correct.
Maybe
It'll be
lower based on the rate.
Yeah, it'll be something less than that 12 million number.
Okay.
Correct.
Thank you. I think finally understand that one better. And then I was trying to understand the levies and abatements for debt services. So I'm clear so far that the 1.25 million is for fire stations in debt. Is that on a yearly basis?
Yes.
Okay. And the 825,000 for Hotel Royer. And I'm not understanding the levy and money moving around being paid from revenue, but not from there. Could you help with that?
Sure. So when we issued those bonds, both for the fire stations and the Hotel Royer, we issued general obligation bonds. So you tend to get a better interest rate on general obligations because they're backed by the city's ability to levy taxes, right? So it's a very secure, safe investment. And so because they're general obligation bonds, when the council approved the ordinances for the bonds, included in those, I don't know, it seems like 50 pages of legal documents, no offense to our city attorney, there was in there is a page that says, that directs the county clerk for specific tax years to levy the amounts to pay the debt service. So what we're essentially saying here is, yes, we know we told you, county clerk, to levy those amounts for debt service, but we have other money to pay the debt service, so now we're telling you, don't levy for debt service. And we will do that every year for as long as those bonds exist, because our plan is to never use property tax revenue to pay the debt service.
Okay, but we're still collecting property taxes, for example, from Hotel Royer, right? Like, they're not exempt from it. We're just saying we're not using the property taxes directly for those debts. Is that right?
Correct. The Hotel Royer is still going to pay property taxes. Yes.
And do those numbers impact, or are they included somewhere in that 12 million total tax levy?
So they are not. The levies for the bonds would be in addition to the 12 million. If we didn't abate them, they would be in addition.
Okay, so
And
if
they
we-
would result in a higher tax rate if we didn't do the abatements.
So if we didn't, yes, do these abatements here for the bonds and say, don't collect tax money for it, the county clerk would specifically collect an extra, what does that come out to? Just over 2 million, 2.1 million?
Right.
Okay. And so we're saying, don't do that because we're paying for them from, we say revenue generated by them, but because we've actually already taken out the bond to pay those, and we're paying ourselves back on, paying the bond back on revenue, right?
You lost me a little bit there.
Well, I
So
guess
we
that's paying the debt service. So paying the debt service being the bonds we already took out, paid by revenue.
Correct. Instead of levying taxes for the bonds, we're going to use revenue that's generated by the hotel to pay the bonds.
Okay, including their property taxes. Well, I guess they're in TIF, so.
Correct, including their property tax increment that will go in the TIF.
Okay. So we do plan to pay some of the bonds with Central TIF?
So for the bonds for Hotel Royer, it's a combination of various revenue sources that are generated by that project. So some of it is coming from Central TIF, property tax increment primarily, or maybe only. But then we have other revenues going into the general fund, such as hotel motel tax, food and beverage tax. So it'll be a combination of funds coming from Central TIF and the general fund that will pay the debt service.
Thank you so much. And then one more. And are we tracking that, like revenue from Hotel Royer specifically, in a sense of like, have they paid off the initial investment?
Yeah, we'll keep very close track of that.
Okay. Thank you so much. I think I understand that a little better this time around.
Thank you, Grace. Any other discussion? Folks on the phone. All right.
Not at this time.
All right. At this time, I'll entertain a motion.
I will move ordinance number 2025-11034, ordinance revising, no, I'm in the wrong section, I'm so sorry. Ordinance number 2025-12037, an ordinance levying taxes for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2025, and ending June 30th, 2026.
Second.
Second.
Motion made by Mary Alice, seconded by Quisenberry. Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Councilmember Wu,
Yes.
Councilmember Evans,
Yes.
Councilmember Hersey,
Yes.
Councilmember Colasetti,
Yes.
Councilmember Bishop,
Yes.
Councilmember Wilkin,
Yes.
Councilmember Quisenberry.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, and that passes. All right, next is ordinance number 2025-12-038, an ordinance directing the Champaign County Clerk to abate the tax levy for the general corporate fund for the tax year beginning July 1st, 2025, and ending June 30th, 2026. Are there any?
I will move approval.
All right,
I will second.
all right. Moved by Mary Alice, seconded by James. Any discussion? Seeing or hearing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Wu,
Yes.
Councilmember Evans,
Yes.
Councilmember Hersey,
Yes.
Councilmember Colasetti,
Yes.
Councilmember Bishop,
Yes.
Councilmember Wilkin,
Yes.
Councilmember Quisenberry.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, and that passes. Thank you. All right, lastly, in ordinance number 2025-12-039, an ordinance directing the Champaign County Clerk to abate a portion of 2025 tax levy related to General Obligation Bond Series 2025 and General Obligation Bond Series 2025A.
I'll move approval.
Second.
A second.
Made by Mary Alice, seconded by Sharice. I'll give it to Sharice this time. All right, any discussion? All right, seeing or hearing none, clerk, will you please call the roll?
Councilmember Wu,
Yes.
Councilmember Evans,
Yes.
Councilmember Hersey,
Yes.
Councilmember Colasetti,
Yes.
Councilmember Bishop,
Yes.
Councilmember Wilkin,
Yes.
Councilmember Quisenberry.
Yes.
Thank you.
And that motion passes. All right, there's no further business before this body, so the city council meeting is adjourned. We will now move to committee of the whole, chaired by Jaya.
Jay, can I ask for a 5-minute recess?
5-minute recess, and then we'll go into Jaya's committee of the whole. Thank you all.
After an hour and a half of updates, my computer.
You don't have any change, I'm coming up. I'll say, if you don't have any addition.
We're very lucky to have you. Don't get scared away.
I don't get scared away, okay.
I was just like, what was just
No, vacation. When do I feel longer ago? No. The 22nd. Around that time, yeah. Sure, I'll connect.
Olivia, well, we don't have quorum, since we're talking about, and I think I shared this with nonprofit and just have to say.
I let her in last week.
Like, I don't know if he's doing as much as he is, but we have a new grants manager. Right on top of getting back to her and everything.
Chandra's back. That's great news. I mean, yeah, very happy to hear that. Yes, it is.
Happy to be on.
I signed many of the oaths from the police, but I think there were 2 that snuck off without me signing it.
We will track him down today, because Lisa knows that I have to have like a copy of this. They get the pretty one.
Yeah.
We just have to have like a scan.
So I actually have a meeting here tomorrow at noon.
Okay.
So if at all possible, I could just sign it like right.
I don't think I have them.
Okay.
I feel like a lot of times we don't get to hear the nice things about it.
Police has them.
I'm always like, no,
Well, we can go bug Cervantes.
let me talk about that part.
And I'll check in with Lisa first thing tomorrow morning too.
Okay, I can come in some other time and sign it. I just wanted to let you know. Good night.
Yeah, we can get something put together.
Okay, just that was pending. I signed a lot of them.
Yeah, no, and that's amazing. It was a nice one.
It was very nice. Very nice. I swear though, I mean, like, can we just put like an all bulletin out to all police and fire that they need to practice the badging? They need to practice the pinning.
The badges and also like, we display our certificate for photos.
There's
Because there were a couple of them holding them like supper plates. So Deshaun told them how to hold their certificates.
That's funny.
It's one of my favorite parts is like the oaths, especially at the very beginning of their career and like watching them progress as they've been through multiple ceremonies.
Yeah. All physically present.
Okay, well, that's what matters.
That's what matters.
All right, it is 8:25, and I'd like to call this meeting of the City of Urbana City Committee of the Whole meeting to agenda. Oh my gosh, let me try that again. It's 8:25, and I'd like to call to order this meeting of the Committee of the Whole. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilmember Wu. Here. Councilmember Evans.
Here.
Councilmember Hersey. Councilmember Hersey. Councilmember Colasetti.
Here.
Councilmember Bishop.
Here.
Councilmember Wilkin. Here. Councilmember Quisenberry.
Here.
Mayor Williams.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is approval of minutes from previous meetings, and there are none. Next is additions to the agenda. Are there any additions? Seeing none, we'll move on to presentations and public input. If anybody would like to address the committee of the whole, please feel free to come up to the microphone and you will have up to 5 minutes to speak. I don't believe we have any more email communication for this meeting. All right. Seeing none, I don't think we have any presentations for this meeting. Are there any staff reports? Nope. All right, we have one item of new business, which is resolution number 2025-12-094R, a resolution approving an increase in the number of liquor licenses in the Class INC designation for Champaign-Urbana Adventures in Time and Space LLC, doing business as Parcadia, 302 North Broadway Avenue, Suite 100, Urbana, Illinois. Is that the ma'am?
Yeah, essentially, this is just, the development of the new golf space or facility that they have. So they're expanding the business, and this license in itself is is it 6 months? Just a temporary, kind of see how it goes, if it's successful, before we, give a final change. So.
Yeah, I would just add on that the intent would be then to craft.
What did I say?
The intent would be to then, within that time period, craft a license category that fits with the business model, which doesn't really fit within an existing license classification. So sort of to study and then bring forward a solution.
Yeah, just for clarification, yes, putt-putt, mini golf, just in case, there's any questions. Grace.
Grace.
Oh, sorry, I'm forgetting who's chairing too. Thank you. I was wondering if you could give us a little more information on what Class INC designation means, and if you have a sense on, like, how we would need to update the classifications. Like, what is it about their use that doesn't quite fit our designations?
My understanding is that the primary thing about the business model that doesn't fit with existing classifications is that for tavern licenses, which are, for businesses that are centered around the sale and service of alcohol on premises without the service of meals, which would be a restaurant license. There are age restrictions for who can be present on the premises, and this being a business that intends to serve families and people of all ages, it would not fit within either of those particularly well. So either tavern or restaurant.
And then the other question about what is INC?
I
don't know the acronym, but it's something that fits those tavern purposes
I
temporarily.
can't think of what the abbreviation is for, and Kate would tell you in a heartbeat, but
I don't know.
It relates to new business development. I can probably find it in the code and pull it up. It'll take me a second. But.
That's okay.
I'm 6 months into my liquor license lingo, y'all, so I apologize.
Go ahead, Grace.
Sorry, and then while they're looking that up, I was also curious where it says anything about temporary, or it's just kind of until we change it and that's the plan, but we don't need to have a end date currently?
Say that one more time. I'm sorry.
They said that this was a temporary license, right, in its intent, but I just didn't see like an end date or anything that
So
said,
all liquor licenses issued at this time will end with the fiscal year automatically. So the liquor license is going to end June 30th, 2026, regardless, because they're an annual renewal. Granted, they only come to council if there is a change in the type of business, if there is a change in ownership, or I think those are, or if it's a new business.
oh, okay, so they'll automatically renewed if there's no changes at the end of the fiscal year, and that this would not renew if they were changing to a different classification.
Correct.
Yeah,
Thank
so
you.
Matt?
the INC is an incubator license. And so some of the kind of special things that apply to an applicant for this would be sort of the temporary nature of it. So it's 180 days under the code, not to exceed 180 days, and automatic expiration at the end of that period of time. Let's see. They provide a detailed business plan on the front end, a plan of operation, and why they seek this license. So they went through all of that process prior to this, explaining why they don't really fit within these licenses and the existing license categories, and why this would be a solution for them.
Thank you for that clarification, Mary Alice.
Yes, I'm just perusing the website and I'm trying to figure out, the climbing place had a license that, to serve alcohol, which is also all ages. And I was trying to figure out which license category they used and if that would be something that would be applicable here.
I think they may have designated a certain space within their business in order to do that.
Right, they did. So in this case, I guess then the follow-up question is, alcohol is served anywhere on-prem for this particular location?
That's my understanding generally. I don't know
You can just nod if.
all the ins and outs.
Yeah, all right.
Oh, yep, she's in the back.
I didn't want to be the, point to you, but yes.
For folks not up here, the applicant is in the audience, so we're searching for confirmation, so yes.
Okay, and then my last question is, so when does it open if this is granted?
Opens shrug. So we're all looking forward to it. When it opens, it opens.
It'd be really good for us to help them open by approving this.
Any further questions? Is there a motion?
I will move. I can pull it up here real quickly. Thank you. I will move to send on to the next city council with the regular agenda, I suppose. There's only one thing. Resolution number 2025-12094R, resolution approving and increasing in the number of liquor license in the Class INC designation for Champaign-Urbana Adventures in Time and Space, LLC, doing businesses Parcadia, 302 North Broadway Avenue, Suite 100, Urbana, Illinois, for approval.
Second.
Moved by Mary Alice, seconded by Grace. Is there any, yes, Grace, go ahead, discussion.
Sorry, just quick note, just want to say thanks for bringing this. Looking forward to the expansions and CU time and space, and yeah, looking forward to some of those new aspects there. So thank you.
Any other
My hand
discussion?
is up, Chair.
Oh, go ahead, Chris.
Thank you. Just a real quick comment. I've been able to poke my head inside the facility as it's being constructed, and I just want to tell the public and the council, this is going to be a very special addition to downtown, and it's going to be a whiz-bang place to take your kids and take a first date, so don't miss it.
Thank you, Chris. Anyone else on the phone who'd like to comment? Okay, hearing nothing but enthusiasm. We'll do a voice vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed, please say nay. That motion passes. All right, thank you very much. Next, we'll move on to, there's a discussion item on the agenda for tonight, which is a return to the discussion around the police surveillance technology ordinance, which is ordinance number 2024-12-042. That is the only other item other than council input and communications on our agenda tonight. And I think it sounds like we don't have a staff update at this time, so it's kind of up to the body to decide, do we want to move forward with some of the other items that we have not yet discussed, or wait until we do have more of an update to move forward, being mindful that we've all expressed an interest in getting this over the finish line. Any thoughts on this? Just recognizing that we also won't meet again until the new year. Grace?
Thank you. I think from just recapping where we left off last week, I believe, we have a version 7.2, which has been updated from a 7 that was presented, a 7.1 that James and Mary Alice worked on. I think we went through and found agreement or clear disagreement on certain things. And then 7.2, Mary Alice and I kind of worked through. And last week we got through, I'd say maybe most, but not all of that version as a group. And then I'd say what seems to be the clear understanding, I think for most of us, on 3 big remaining pieces are the definitions and finalizing those, figuring out if this applies to all departments or just police department. And then Section 8 about oversight and if or how that works with our existing commissions or any other mechanism. So I'll just leave a recap there. Thank you.
Thank you, Grace. Mary Alice?
Yeah, I would agree with what Grace had just said. I would like to throw another point of discussion. I know that it might seem like we're beating a dead horse here, but the definition of emergency situations, I'd like to have that conversation. I know that both Grace and Matt have worked on various iterations of that. I do continue to have concerns about using the phrasing disaster. And so in addition to the definitions, all departments versus police, and the oversight, I'd just like to add that to another list of items for discussion.
Does anyone have a preference in terms of tackling? James, go ahead.
I was just going to add, I do think we had a straw poll at one point about all departments or police departments, and that straw poll leaned towards police department only. So I think we've had a straw poll for that. The things that I would add as clarification, Section 7 is highly dense legal language, and that's a place where I've asked for it to include at least some less dense kind of initial thing, what's trying to be accomplished there, and if the legal language has to be there, that so be it, but to make it more readable for folks, particularly around the prohibition of selling data, just clarifying, having clear language first and then the legalese second. And then the 8th section, which is about what other parts of the city and with regard to boards and commissions are going to help with this, and that challenge surrounds the involvement of the CPRB, and whether that should be something that starts at the beginning with direct responsibilities, or whether that's something, I think Mary Alice has suggested it be shall language or may language instead of shall language, or whether we leave that CPRB ownership for a future update, perhaps when we do an update for the CPRB ordinance as a whole. And so those were the remaining sticking points from my perspective that haven't already been stated. I believe we're going to work through I think we're pretty close on the definition, the lists. I think we've talked through those pretty good. But I do know the definition of, I share Mary Alice's concern about the definition of disaster or emergency need. I would prefer language that's emergency and focused on the discretion of the mayor or their designate.
I think those are all good items. I think we're just trying to figure out how we want to organize tonight and moving forward. Darius?
And I just want to add on the side of staff, as we review 7.2, initially I was hoping that we would come in December with the presentation, but we are preparing for January, so staff is now looking through 7.2 to bring back something for you all in January. So just want the public to know that.
James.
I would be interested to know, I know Chandra has not been able to be with us for some of the conversation this fall. If Chandra has anything to share at this point on some of the things we have sticking points with, that would be helpful.
Chandra, do you feel interested in speaking to that item?
Yes, I've been trying to keep up with all the drafts and edits that have been flying back and forth. And to be honest, it's kind of hard to keep up. It's not as clear as I would like it to be, but I'm trying to keep up, and I can't wait to get back in person so that I can be more focused and be able to give better input on this. But I like that Darius said staff is coming in January, and hopefully I'll be back in person to attend those meetings as well. But maybe, like Grace, that's something you and I can set aside some time to discuss and talk about, and you can kind of walk me through what's been happening and all the discussion points that's led up to this point.
Grace? Thank you, Chandra.
Yeah, thank you. I think that's helpful. And Chandra definitely would be happy to talk with you sometime. Let me know a time that works for you. And likewise for any other council people that we can talk individually and work through some things. I think sometimes things are also a matter of finding a mutual understanding first to be sure that we're talking about the same things, and that's a helpful starting point. And kind of along that lines too, like where we left off with the definition of exigent circumstances was worked through with the city attorney to reference the Illinois Emergency Management Act. And then we kind of mitigated that to say that it doesn't have to actually be declared as a state of emergency by the governor or even the mayor in an official capacity. And right now the definition says that it's occurrences that are determined by the mayor or their designee to meet the definition of a disaster under that Illinois thing. So it doesn't have to actually be a declared disaster, but I thought that's where, we had worked through finding that balance of referencing a legal standard that's common and having the flexibility of being able to declare it or designate it ourselves without a formal declaration, and also maintain a high bar that we are talking about emergencies. We're not talking about a smaller thing, that we're talking about more catastrophic natural or human caused public health emergencies. We're talking about widespread kinds of higher classification towards catastrophic than a minor incident that may have smaller consequences. So I think that's all. Thank you.
James?
Yeah, and did you want to give people online another chance before I speak a second time?
Thank you, yeah. Chris or Charisse, do you have anything you want to share before we circle back to James or Chandra?
I don't have anything at this time.
Okay. Hearing no comments from above, go ahead, James.
Yeah, I just want to clarify that I understand what the process was that utilized a less formal definition or way of interpreting a disaster. I'm talking about the idea of, earthquake versus somebody's life or serious harm being possible if we don't take action. And so that's not going to be declared a disaster. You could say, well, maybe one person at risk of harm or death is not enough to give leeway here. Is it 5 people? Is it 10 people? Is it 20 people? I just think that there are emergencies that most people will not think of where harm or death are possible, would not fall under the definition of declaring a disaster, even if you're using an informal model of that. I guess the other thing I would at some point like to hear, maybe not tonight, but in the future, is hear from the mayor, since we're likely to put this in the mayor's hands as far as interpreting, are we giving enough guidance that the mayor would be comfortable with what's on their plate to make a decision? Mayor Williams?
And I can just say, just from a surface level, I've not seen anything from the 7.2 that warrants for me to have a lot of concern, other than, I do want, us to be mindful that, if for whatever reason, if I decide that something is an emergency per se, I want to ensure that I have the ability to call for that if that is the case without having to quote unquote seek permission in a sense, right? But, ultimately, I have been very intentional on allowing for the body to discuss this and have, the different inputs as we then turn around and have the discussion, within staff to determine the path moving forward, so.
I think at this point, I'd like to see, is there something that people would like to tackle tonight? Or do we feel like we need to come back to this when we have that staff feedback? Mayor Williams?
Sorry, and I know Mary Alice. I was just going to say, I think that this is a unique, opportunity for us to be able to give the staff, the proper time. Full transparency, there's been a lot of changes and a lot of things thrown at, the staff, and the team has done a phenomenal job in keeping up with a lot of these changes and things of that nature. I feel like this is an opportunity for them to catch their breath, in a sense, and really, filter through what's been presented to them so that we can have a solid package going into the January conversation when hopefully everyone is back in person and we can move forward and have something that we all can agree on as we, look to cross the finish line with this. That's just my 2 cents for what it's worth, so I'm open to hearing others.
Mary Alice?
Yeah, I just, I do want to acknowledge, Grace is absolutely right. We talked a lot about the whole process of how to do exigent circumstances, and Grace has made lots of modifications and so forth. I guess just listening to how James has been conceptualizing, are we talking about 1 or 2 people? Are we talking about, a block? It just reminds me of today, we had a presentation from the fire department about a situation in which an individual was potentially going to harm themselves on a building, and I can see that as being a very serious case. And I'm just hypothesizing here that maybe a drone could have flown over to give them a bird's eye view of what's going on that rooftop. In that case, it would be a single person, right? It wouldn't be necessarily a group of people. But anyway, it's just something for us to think about as we talk about what does an exigent circumstance look like. And 1 versus 100, 10 versus, I don't think we're going to weigh different lives, so to speak, but we do need to think through, what does that emergency scenario look like?
I think what I would suggest, since obviously we need to give staff more time on this too, is if there are specific suggestions for something that is missing in this current definition, if we can get that to the staff before we have our first meeting in January so that they have time to incorporate any, or at least share out any suggested changes, because I think there has been a lot of clarification, but if there is something that still feels like it's missing to clarify the intent, I would suggest that council members provide that feedback so we can make sure that while we're taking the time that's needed to make sure that staff have time, that we're also not then coming back and saying, well, now, city council needs more time, because, I do want to recognize that there has been so much work that has happened in the last few months. We'll see that this is a 2024 ordinance number on here. So I think the fact that we're close, it has taken a really long time, and I just don't want us to lose the momentum that we have had in getting this close to, to actually push this over the finish line. Grace?
Thank you. Appreciate the inputs there. We'll just a few points for staff in your review. I believe what was brought up tonight on section 7 and also section 6C has been a pesky one, giving us trouble, and I appreciate that Matt, our city attorney, has given us some proposed language, and I think I did not include 6C, your recommendation, in 7.2 draft version. And if you have anything else for section 7, just was going to throw that out there as hopefully y'all can talk amongst yourselves and update or work through any of those sections as far as the legal and staff aside. And then just one more thing about exigent circumstances. I hear what people are saying, but I think we're also getting lost in the weeds, and I don't think our definition is going to say if one person's life is at risk or if 5 people's lives is at risk. Also remember that this is only for things that are not already approved. Like for drones, for example, to my understanding, we don't have drones in the city, but if we did, we would have a policy on them. And that would probably include if someone's life is in harm's way, we would use the drone for that purpose. And that would be in the use policy. That would not be something that would fall under an exigent circumstance. That's not what this would be. A closer example for that would be there's someone up on a ledge, we're gonna go out and buy drones and then use them. That's not what would happen. So again, I think sometimes here we're confusing what would be in the use policy as an approved use and what an exigent circumstance is only for things that are either a whole new technology that's not even approved for the city use or a way that is extremely outside of the existing use policy. And so in theory, the use policies would include the vast majority of the times when you would need to use those things for public safety. And this is only for things outside of that.
Just as a point of clarification, another piece that was identified was the language related to CPRB or HRC review. I guess I'm curious from council members if there was a shift to may rather than shall. Does that alleviate some of those concerns? If there's any feedback on that. Because I hear that, right, that the structure to make sure that the commissions or board have the capacity to participate in a meaningful way is something that would have to be fleshed out. So wanting to make sure that we have that oversight built in, but also recognizing that there might be some additional adjustments that have to take place. Grace?
I would love to hear more from the commissions and staff that work with them and attorney and kind of, I think that might be a piece that hopefully fits in with the January one. Maybe that's after the staff review, but I think it would be really helpful to hear from the people who would be impacted and actually working with this themselves. We've heard from a few individual members, but I don't think that we've really had a holistic input from the commissions. As far as a may versus shall, I think that's still something we could get to with some input from the commissions. There was a sentence added at the end of section 8A that just says if CPRB is not able to review the report for whatever reason, they just state that. So that's what I've kind of proposed as an out if they're not able to. I understand shall to may. I would still like it to be shall and keep that sentence in there, but I would not like to hold up the whole passage of this ordinance over that. So a hill I'm not willing to die on, but I would still like it to be shall with a clause that if that's not possible, just tell us that.
Can you, just looking at B, just how that kind of feeds into A? Because I do appreciate that, right, that there would be an opportunity for explanation if they weren't able to, but then it's also that they shall hear the complaints. In B.
Oh, and you're saying there's a thought to change may in B also?
That's a question, I guess, that I have for council in general, and I do hear that we want to have some teeth behind it, but recognizing that in A, we're saying that there's an opportunity to say, we didn't do this and here's why, that then in B, it's a shall. So it sounds like they have to.
I think maybe some more input, for example, like the HRC, I don't know if they already are required to hear complaints that come to their board. Because again, this is complaints that come directly to their board about surveillance technology. So I think with CPRB, this would be a change because they don't normally hear complaints directly. Those go through the department, to my understanding, the police department. But with HRC, I'm not sure if they already directly hear complaints.
Carla, do you feel comfortable answering that?
Currently, HRC does not hear complaints because they are a part of the complaint process. They're the second level. So if a complaint comes in and the determination, the complainant does not agree with it, then it goes to the HRC. And to not have them to have pre-knowledge of the complaint, they get that at the appeal process. And then they're also, if it moves beyond that, they are also a part of the public hearing process. And so they are shielded from the complaint when it initially comes in, but they are updated on that complaint as it comes in. As I'm working on it, they get updates at the meetings.
Thank you for that clarification. Any other feedback on that item? I know I'm trying to get us so that we have everything, all the guidance that we feel like we're getting stuck on, available for staff. Carla, yes.
I didn't respond to the CPRB portion. Sorry. about
If
that.
you're willing to, yeah, that's great.
The CPRB, they do see all of the complaints as they come in. I have, the ordinance expresses that they get them within 7 days of submission. I usually get them to them the very same day. So they get to see them. They don't work them unless they go to the appeal process, but they are a part of the process every step of the way because they have complete knowledge of them.
Thank you very much for that clarification. I would imagine that some of this also comes down to that difference of opinion on whether this should apply to just the police department or multiple departments, right? Because if it's multiple departments, CPRB would not be the natural fit for complaints that are not related to the police department, I would assume. So I think that also could be a piece of this, right? If we're saying, if it does end up being just the police department, that it might make sense to keep the language with the CPRB piece versus the HRC. Just, that's me spitballing, but. So I guess we've kind of identified, I think we're in agreement about where the sticking points are, and I think just if everyone can kind of do that additional review. Chandra, I appreciate your willingness to spend some more time on this, right as we're pulling you back in, and Grace, your willingness to have that conversation with Chandra to, as the person who's really spearheaded this for a year now. I really appreciate all your work on this, and, to everybody who's gotten us this close, I think we are almost there. James?
One concern I have is if we're not, as council, leaning towards police only or all departments, it makes it really hard for the staff to review this because the scope is very different. And so, I don't know that we've had a straw poll, I think, when you were guiding us through it a couple weeks back. But of course, Chandra wasn't with us at that point. So again, I'll ask if she's comfortable to give her feeling on whether this is a police-focused ordinance or a all departments ordinance.
I will say that I don't, off the top of my head, remember what the numbers ended up looking like for that straw poll. So I would, as chair, be comfortable just suggesting that we do it again. Because I agree, like, if we're going to ask staff to, say, hey, help us get this over the finish line, that it doesn't make sense to ask them to do a bunch of work that's not related to the police department if that's going to be the will of the majority of the council. So, yes, Grace, go ahead.
I hear that. I'm down for it. But I will just say I still think this is the backwards way of doing it. I think that we need the information first to make a more informed decision. And I don't think we've thoroughly gone through the definitions and examples and the city technology to really any meaningful extent. Like, if we say that GPS tracking is clearly a surveillance technology, then why wouldn't it apply to community development? Is, to my understanding, the only department that is tracking people's locations or paying for people's location data. So I think it's kind of contradictory if we're saying that these are the definitions of surveillance technology, this applies to all surveillance technology, and not apply to really all surveillance technology. And I really don't think we've gone through this list of what the city uses in any kind of productive, meaningful discussion yet. So for me, I think it's too early, but I won't stand in the way of the will of the majority.
Mary Alice.
Yeah, so my understanding with the definition of surveillance technology, and maybe this is incorrect, is that it incorporates tech with a person or a group. So, and the reason I bring this up is I know that there's been some questions about the traffic data. That I can't search with a P, I can't remember the name. Yeah, Plexer AI, is that what you said? Placer. And while it is using GPS technology, it is not having any identification of an individual or a group. It's just a random car. So I guess my question is that a pair, right? The technology with the ability to identify a person or a group. That's my understanding of what surveillance technology is that's covered under this. If that's not correct, so that's why I'm going with this, with the GPS technology, Grace, is because I feel like Placer AI would not fall into that group. because it doesn't have that identifiable nature. But I just want to make sure that I'm understanding that correctly.
Grace?
I would like more information from it, about it. Like, we have a few sentences. I would love to learn more about how it's used, what it is. Is that true? Because it's not just a point in time. It's saying these people went to the farmer's market, and then they went to the co-op, and then they went to the library, and then they went back to Rantoul. It is connected movements, to my understanding. This is not just a point in time snapshot that says there was 1,000 people in Lincoln Square Mall on Saturday morning, supposedly at the farmer's market. It then says who went back to this part of town, who went to this place, and then this place. So, I mean, I think that it becomes a slippery slope of how is that personally identifiable. Could you target a religious space on a certain time and place and target a group of individuals in that way? So, I mean, I think that I would love to know more about it, and I'm not convinced that it's not personally identifiable to some extent.
Darius?
So for Placer AI, it actually does a little bit of both. So it does allow us to do traffic counts if we decide to provide a GIS area where we lock down participation. So in the past, it has been used for such things as the Rose Bowl parking lot for us to understand if there has been good use out of it. However, for its tracking, it doesn't identify individuals within their personal data as far as their name, phone number, or address. There is general information of demographics that may identify age range or gender or even education based. However, it doesn't take, it wouldn't utilize Darius White within its information. So it will tell you if individuals from 20 to 30 attend a certain area, but it won't go into their specific information that will be able to follow them, as such as it doesn't provide us their home information or anything of that nature. So yes, it does provide a little bit of both, and we'll be happy to provide a presentation if you all would like.
I think that is good information. And I will say, Grace, I see the strong argument for getting more of that information. I just want to make sure that we don't keep pushing this, right? Saying we need more and more and more and more information. We want to make a very well-informed decision, and I will say my personal preference is to have a more expansive use of this policy, but I also don't want to hold it up if that's not going to be the direction that we go. So I'm open to feedback on if that's the appropriate step, but again, just thinking about what is going to help us finish this.
I mean, this is the first time we've been in a meeting with all 7 of us. I think redoing that straw poll would be helpful.
It sounded like we might have lost someone. For folks who are on the phone, can you just say something if you're still there?
Still here.
Thanks, Chris. Chandra and Sharice, are you still there? Good suggestion. Thanks, James, but I think we've lost some folks. I do think that makes it harder, that I think for us to have a productive and effective January, I think knowing how much we're asking city staff to do would be very helpful. But I do think that it's important that everyone has a chance to weigh in, so that I don't know if we can think about if there's a way to communicate that offline. But since that is one of the sticking points, I think even if it's maybe letting the clerk know what one's preference would have been is a starting point. That's just a suggestion. I'm open to other ideas. But again, if this is something that we're going to, and Grace, I do hear that point, right, of how can we regulate technology if we don't even know what we're using? I think that's a strong argument. But also, if that's a more expansive use of this policy is not going to go for it, I don't want to waste staff time. Mayor?
Are you suggesting that essentially everyone sends a message to the clerk, ideally stating what their preference would be?
Yes, that's my suggestion, just so that staff know how to prepare for the first meeting in January, is to say, if that sounds amenable to staff, to have a sense of a preference for, it applying to all departments or just the police department. That doesn't mean it couldn't change in the future, but to at least let staff know how best to prioritize things for that January meeting. Does that work? Is that allowable?
Can I make a suggestion?
Yep.
So previously, city staff, when attempting to gauge like council consensus, we used a similar process when we were sorting through the large number of ARPA projects that submitted. There was, I believe, an Excel document that went out that had like a series of things that asked you to like grade your warmth on them and like kind of rank them. And that way it's like anonymized, it's one way, it's not violating OMA. If that is something that you guys are amenable to, that would be my preference, as opposed to just like you guys remembering to send me an email expressing a preference on a thing, like a tailored specific, like here's what we're inquiring about type of thing.
That makes sense to me, but again, Grace?
I think that's a nice solution. Thank you from the clerk, a nice proposed mechanism there. I'm fine with it. I do also just want to clarify that that's, I think you've said it clearly, but it's a straw poll for staff direction, and that nothing here in discussion tangibly changes the ordinance outside of the authors, us, and so none of that is binding. So it's not like we can change it later. This is effectually not doing anything besides giving direction at this point. So there's nothing to kind of change back unless it is in the proposed ordinance, and then even still, it's not passed yet. So nothing is really done to any extent at this point.
Yeah, thank you for that clarification. If we're asking staff to prepare something to send out for us to respond to, are there other items of those that we have identified that we're kind of stuck on that would be appropriate to include in what would be shared with council offline? Grace?
I was trying to think. I think we have kind of some main issues laid out, but I can't think of a good survey question to send out that way. And then I guess question for staff, because I heard Darius say that you would be happy to share more about Placer AI in January, and that's not overly burdensome, or is it? If you could speak for yourself, because it seemed like we're doing all this to avoid extra work for you, but it sounds like you have just said that you would be okay doing that.
For Placer AI, yes, I'll be happy to provide data on or information or present on that, excuse me. For any other items that are within that surveillance that go to other departments, I would, happy to check with them, but we'll get back to you all. But Placer AI itself, I can provide presentation on that.
I think so, and I think maybe, there is some interpretation with everything, and, even law stuff is all somewhat who's reading it and who's interpreting it. I appreciate this thorough list, but I think some things, like for IT, we've talked about like Microsoft. Okay, probably not surveillance. Like, I don't know if, at your discretion with the city attorney, I think some of these things could be more easily eliminated or explicitly already exempt, like things explicitly for traffic stuff that is not anonymized, or that is anonymized, like there's a thing on the pole that just tracks number of passages and that's it, that's clearly already exempt in the proposed language now. So I do think that from community development, the location tracking from community development in my mind is the main thing that might be relevant outside of the police department.
Other feedback on that? Mary Alice?
So I just want to be clear in terms of the process from here. So the question that we need an unofficial count on is whether or not the ordinance applies to the police department or to all departments within the city. And we are to email the clerk with our answer of one or the other. I don't think there needs to be an Excel spreadsheet, right? We just need to say, I think this ordinance should pertain to X, and whatever that is that okay?
As long as all 7 of you are comfortable remembering to independently send me that email without a prompt.
Can I ask, clerk, would you be able to just send something to the council and remind everyone not to reply all?
Yes.
I appreciate that.
Right,
I think
thank
it's
you.
much less likely to slip. And just, to make sure that council is also thinking about people might be traveling during the holidays. Let's be respectful of city staff and the clerk's time too, so that we're not waiting till the last minute to say, oh, shoot, yeah, we did want all this extra information too. Clerk?
In that same vein, is there a date, like a cutoff date by which you want me to be like, okay, this is the responses we've received as of this date?
I mean, I think that for city staff to have any chance to have a sense for what direction to go, this needs to be as quickly as possible. So I'm, open to feedback from the members present here in person or on the phone. But I would say, next week at the latest would be my personal opinion. If people are, but if people aren't here, like, you can still answer an
22nd.
email. December 22nd, does that work?
That's 1 week, yeah.
Yeah, is that doable? Okay. So please be on the lookout for an email from the clerk so you can make sure that your preference is stated. But again, just keeping in mind that, like, as Grace stated, this is simply a preference in terms of direction for staff to be the most prepared as possible for our first meeting in January, so we can try to move this along. And then I think beyond that, I think if everyone can pay particular attention to the definitions, sections, the questions that came up related to section 7, 8, and including the CPRB and HRC participation, so that we can be prepared to try to hammer out those last few details, we should be in a good place. Anything else for tonight on this discussion? Chris, anything? I think you're maybe the lone voice up in the ceiling left.
No, not at this time.
Okay. All right. Seeing nothing further related to that discussion, we'll move on to council input and communications. Is there any input or communications? Mayor?
I'll just say, again, I appreciate everyone who has really put in a lot of work and just input on, on these things as we continue to move forward. But I do want to give, shout out to the staff and team just for the work, which has been put in. So thank you all and happy holidays.
James?
I just wanted to mention that thanks to the clerk's help and some feedback from some community members, IT was able to identify a reason why messages may not have gotten through. It was related to a system that has now been retired, and I've been assured by city staff, IT staff, that they're going to be monitoring the flow of email to particularly the groups, the mailing groups like the council, boards and commissions and such. And so I want to apologize to the public if you feel like you've been trying to contact us via email and it hasn't been getting through. It's possible it hasn't been. I want to thank Adam, who I read his letter earlier, who was persistent and questioning and helped us find out the issue this time.
Anything else from anyone? Yes, thank you for getting that technology problem fixed. Okay, seeing none, with no further business, this meeting is adjourned.